Hello everyone, Tina here. I hope your day is going fantastic. Thank you so much for joining me. Today I have a fun project to share with you. We're going to be creating a mini slimline card that's a cross between a shadow box and a tunnel card. We're going to put them both together to create a real fun look, and we're going to be using a color coordinated variety pack from the My Colors Cardstock collection. This one happens to be the Snow Day, and I love the variety in here. The Pink Delight here is a glimmery color. You have Mint Julep. This has a canvas texture to it. You have the blue Clematis. This has some mini polka dots on there that are embossed, and they don't deboss it too when you die cut them, which is fabulous. And then you have some heavyweight cardstock in the watermelon. So I thought this is a perfect color palette to create a friendship card. We're going to need a stamp set for this, and we are using the Friends stamp set. Love the sentiments in here, and there is a coordinating die set. The die set cuts out the Friends here, so if you want to stamp on white cardstock an ombre look and then die cut the friend or the friendship out, you could very well do that with the die set, but you can also use this on its own because it has a shadow too. So we'll be using both of these on our card today. So let's jump in to create the shadow box / tunnel card. It's very easy to do. We're going to start off with some white cardstock. I have two 8.5 by 11 sheets of white cardstock, and I'm going to stack these together and bring in my paper trimmer. First, we're going to create the shadow box, the mini slimline shadow box. I'm putting both of these through my paper trimmer. I'm going to trim at 6.5 inches, and then I'll flip my paper around and we'll trim at 5.5 inches. So we have two panels here. Next, I'll bring in my scoring tool, and with this we'll take the papers so that they're long ways, and then we'll use our scoring tool. We're going to score it 1/2 inch, 1 inch. We'll score it 4.5 inches, and then 5 inches. So we have a total of 4 score marks, you can see here. And we'll do the same thing with this one. 1/2 inch, 1 inch, 4.5, 4.5, and then we'll go 5. It's pretty easy to create the tunnel card. After we have this done, what we're going to do is accordion kind of fold these. I'm going to flip it in and then flip it out. If you want to use your bone folder for this, you could, to reinforce those score lines. We'll flip it around, and I'll do the same thing. We'll fold it in and then fold it out, and then I'll just reinforce this with the score line. So this is what it looks like here. Like a table, almost like a picnic table. We'll do the same thing with this. An accordion fold, and then we'll reinforce it, and then I'll flip it around and do the same thing. So far, one of them, it will be our back panel, and then one of them will be our front panel. So we'll put one off to the side, and then we're going to flatten what we just did. To create my template, I'm going to be using the Photoplay Paper's nested bookplate die set, but really any kind of mini slimline nested die set you have would work perfect for that. To create a template, first I'm going to use the leftover piece of cardstock. I'll take the largest bookplate die, and this will create a slimline that's 3.5 inches wide by 6.25 inches tall. And this is the same measurement for the largest bookplate. So I'll die cut this out along with the second to the smallest. I'm going to create a window in here. We're just going to line this up, making sure this is centered because this is going to be our template. And then we can tack this down with the low tack tape. I think that's pretty centered. And then I'll run this through my die cutting machine. Okay, we have our window frame die cut out. Use this for another card. I'm going to take my window frame. We're going to use this, but we're also going to use this as a template. So right in between our second score line here, you have one score line, two score line, and then our second and third score line is where we're going to place this. And since this is a mini Slimline cover panel, we can line it all the way up to the bottom. I thought we'd create a shaped card too. So the top part is, you don't have to do this, but I'm eventually going to trim away the top here. I'm lining it up between my score lines. I'll take that same die that we used for the inside window, and what we're going to do is just kind of shimmy it to where it's not going to move. Oops. And then we can secure it. This way we're not over cutting on our frame, but this is going to go through our die cut machine once more, and it'll be perfectly placed. So I'll be right back. And now we have our frame and then our window that is perfectly aligned like so. Now what we're going to do next is I'm going to flip over my panel, and then I'll flip over this one. I'm going to line it back up. I'm going to take a pencil and trace around the top area of this panel here. And I will trace along that top decorative edge, and I'm not going to go over here to the fold. So we have pencil marks along this top edge. To continue it on to the left and right, I'm going to use my T-square ruler. And what we can do is just finish off that cut line on the left and the right. I'm going to use my scissors, making sure that the cut line on the left and right is straight. And the archway doesn't have to be perfect because we're going to actually cover that with a frame. And no one will ever see that part. So now we have a shaped mini Slimline. I'm going to go ahead and reinforce those score lines we created in the beginning, and this is what it looks like. Now, the reason I created a frame was because I like the stitch detail along the edge. So if you don't mind not having the stitch detail, you don't have to create the frame, but it does help with placement, like I mentioned. I'm going to use my tape runner, and we're going to go ahead and adhere this right over the top. Okay, now we're going to do a little bit more die cutting to create the tunnel look. I trimmed down my cardstock, and now what we're going to do is create two frames and then two background panels. And then I have some of that watermelon pink that we're going to create a sentiment with. So first, and I have them in the order that we're going to be using the sizes of these dies with. So with the white, I'm going to use the smallest book plate. The next size up, I'm going to be using that beautiful blue. The next size from that, I'll be using the green. The next size from that, I'll be using the pink. After we have this done, these two frames to create it, it's very easy. I'm going to borrow this die, layer it together here. Make sure you evenly space it, and this will give me a 1/4 inch frame. And then I'm going to take, for this frame, I'll take from the blue, we'll borrow that die, and then we will line these up and do the same thing. So we have two frames and then two background panels. Now I went ahead and separated my dies from the from our Friends die set, and I'm going to be using the one that says Friends and the shadow. Since we have a little extra room here, I'll die cut the shadow out with white cardstock, and then the word Friends, I want a little bit of dimension to my sentiment. So I'll die cut this out 3 times with my watermelon pink cardstock. Now in our Friends die set, there is also a little heart. I'm going to be doing some die cutting with the heart too. I want some hearts in the background. So I'll die cut out a couple pink, a couple green, a couple blue, and some of the watermelon pink. So I have a bit of die cutting to do. I will be right back. Everything is die cut. Now I did die cut out my hearts and I put some foam squares behind the back of them. So those are ready to go also. These are what our frames look like. I'm going to go ahead and take our friend's sentiment. I'm going to use a little bit of glue, and what we're going to do is stack these together for a little bit of, we're going to stack all of these together for a little bit of dimension. Three is like the perfect amount. I'm going to go ahead and flip this around, add some more glue, and then we'll layer this on the shadow or the outline die. And our sentiment is finished off. Now we're going to take our frame here and our background panel. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and use the front panel as a guide. We'll line both of these up here. Just making sure. And then I'm going to add a little bit of glue on the inside here. And since our blue mini polka dot paper is the same size, we can just insert that. And I know this is perfectly placed now. I went ahead and put some foam tape behind this, and I doubled it up. I put 2 layers. The foam tape that I use is from ThermoWeb, and it's on the thinner side, and so doubling it up is going to give me a little bit more dimension, and I'll just center this in the center of my mini polka dot panel. So we have a little bit of dimension here. Now with the front of my card, we have our green frame. I'm going to flip this around, just add glue directly behind it. And then we can layer this right over our window. And then I did put foam tape behind my pink frame for 1 extra layer to create that tunnel look. So I'm going to remove the release paper off of this foam tape. I'll take this frame and we're going to layer this right next to that green one. Now that we have our frame on, I'm going to layer both of these together. I'm going to bring back my pencil and I'm going to create the same archway here. So we'll just trace around. I'll use my scissors and I'll go ahead and trim away the excess on this panel. Now I have a little bit of pencil mark on the top here. I'm just going to use my sand eraser and erase that. Now I'm going to fold these in, reinforce those score lines that we created. I'm going to flip this around, and on the outside edge flaps, you can fold this in here. On these 2 flaps here, we're going to add glue. And then I'm going to flip this around, making sure that this is held down. We're just going to line these flaps up. I like to do one side at a time, even though there's glue on the other side. You can see there's my glue. Now I'll fold this over and we'll attach the other flap here. Just hold it down so it grabs and secures. And then you can see how it pops up and it creates that tunnel look. This is what it looks like closed. There's a little bit of dimension with that foam tape that we added, but not too much, and then it pops right up. So a tunnel and a shadow box all in one. Super fun. Now I'm going to take my sentiment I brought in my stamping positioner, added some white cardstock, and for my secondary sentiment, I chose the one that says, "Our family you choose," or "the family you choose." So my sentiment will say, "Friends are the family you choose." I just think that's super, super cute. I'm going to ink this up with my Memento ink. I'm going to stamp right here. Stamps wonderful. I'm going to use my paper trimmer and we'll trim this down. So my sentiment's done. Now originally I was going to add foam tape behind these hearts. These ones have foam adhesive behind there, and I did the pink ones too, but I changed my mind on that. I decided to trim down some acetate strips, and I thought we would add some thin strips behind each of these hearts. So I attached the heart to one end of the acetate and I put glue on the other end. And what we're going to do is tuck these inside here. So when it's closed, it lays flat, but when it's opened, it pops up. And I'm going to go ahead and place my sentiment here. For my last heart, I'll do the same thing, but this time I'm reversing sides. So this time this heart's going to be on the left. Then I'll add a little glue, and we can place this on this side. I just think that looks really fun. Okay, now I have some clamps, and what I'm going to do is hold it closed on both sides. Just so I can add the rest of my hearts. I'm going to go ahead and remove the release paper, and we will fill in that white book plate in the background. I can remove those clamps here. And that will finish off my shadow box / tunnel card. Super neat effect. This is what the inside looks like. When it's closed, it looks wonderful. Let me bring in an envelope. You just slide this in, and it fits beautifully. There is a little bit of bulk to it, but not too much. And then when you pull it out, the recipient has a beautiful card. That finishes my card today. I hope you enjoyed my project. I wish you a lovely day. Thanks so much for joining me, and we will see you again real soon. Bye-bye.